Three, two, one. We're live.
Good evening, everyone. This is Steve, the first officer of the Massachusetts Pirate Party, which is our sort of term for a co-chair or vice chair, assistant chair. Um, at any rate, welcome to another Pirate News. Tonight, I have with me Captain James O'Keefe. Jamie, hello,
Ahoy.
and our quartermaster Joe. Good evening, Joe.
Good evening and ahoy.
So we'll start off with a recap of yesterday's pirate conference. This was our annual conference. We hadn't done one in a while because of the pandemic, but we were able to get one in yesterday. And Jamie, would you care to give us a summary?
Sure. A video of the different presentations and discussions is up. We'll tack it on to the end and stick it in the description. Additionally, that's really only half of it. The other half was discussions about where we want to go and how we want to better organize ourselves. So, for example, on January 21st, we're going to have kind of a little mini conference to get people together and talk about things. That'll be a good time because most of the cities, none of the city elections and most of the town elections will not have happened. So that's another way of, teaching people how to run for office, discussing tips and techniques. Additionally, we've changed. We're still meeting on Thursdays at 9 p.m. for our weekly meetings, but instead of every week, we're doing it every 2 weeks, where we'll have a meeting this Thursday and then a meeting 2 weeks after that. And then those will be video meetings. We're going to try that instead of IRC. We're hoping that'll be more inclusive, and we'll do that on our on the video hosting Big Blue Button instance that we use. And we'll record those and then go and upload those later. Those won't be live streamed. And every other Thursday, we'll be meeting at the US Pirate Party Discord server. There's a Mass Pirates chat, and we'll just, answer people's questions, talk about ideas, brainstorm, and things like that. So it's just a way of folks to get together, other pirates in Massachusetts to get together and plan those things out. This upcoming weekend, Joe has found a place that we might use for events. So up in Lowell. So we're going to go take a look at that. And we'll be posting that at masspirates.org soon, or you could join our mailing list, which is in a link in the description, and we'll send you an email with the full details about that. And then the final thing is we are electing new officers. So if you want to chart the direction of the Pirate Party, you want to be involved and make sure everything gets done, well, put your money where your mouth is and put your name in and run for one of the many positions that we have. We'd love to have you. And, come on down. We'll put a link in the description for that. And that's all of our updates for the moment.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Go for
it. Our friends over at the Mesh Boston Network are going to be at the Boston Anarchist Book Fair, November 12th and 13th. And we'll be helping them out at the table as they talk with people about mesh networking. And we'll be talking additionally about the Pirate Party, and I'll be wearing both hats, so I'll be talking about both. And if you'd like to volunteer for that, we'll put a link in the description, and you can go and sign up. We'd love to have your help.
Yeah, the Boston Anarchist Book Fair is a fun event, and even if one of the things you could do, one of the notable things you could do there is buy books. I usually walk out with about a foot of stuff, and that takes me about a couple months to read through. But there's typically tables from a number of publishers like AK Press and so on. that just have some really good stuff. And I also want to echo what Jamie said earlier about electing officers for the Massachusetts Pirate Party. You know, this is your chance to to get involved and contribute, and and work a little bit of your own, get yourself a seat at a table, and put a little bit of the thumbprint of your very own vision on the Massachusetts Pirate Party. So yeah, if you're thinking about doing it, just go ahead and do it. All right, so now on to newsworthy stuff. I'm going to start, and this is a little article that I found in the Register about Facebook and their mobile app. So what the Register reports is that Facebook is, been developing their very own browser. So rather than using, say the system libraries that would come with an Android or an iOS device, an iPhone, they are planning to, basically run their application with their own browser. And they're, the reasons they give for this is they claim it'll be a better user experience. They believe they'll be able to make it more secure than what Apple and Google are publishing. And they also, have, I guess, some grumbles about how often the, Apple and Google update their web libraries. They don't think they do it often enough. But the one thing that's notable about this, first you have to understand that Facebook collects a tremendous amount of data about people, and in order to show them the perfect advertising, or to, as we've seen a couple of times in the past few years, make that data available to third parties. So with their, by using their own browser, not only can they keep track of what links you click, within a Facebook store, a Facebook feed or post, they will be able to keep track of everything you do after clicking that link. From a security perspective, I don't entirely buy their argument. Some of the contemporary browsers, Google and Apple offer services to filter out or to block malware links, to block phishing sites. And if Facebook is going to do this, they're going to have to, if they have their own browser, they're going to have to implement all of this themselves. And you have to wonder what's their motivation for doing this, what's the motivation for doing this versus, what's the motivation for just collecting more data. Now, you might ask yourself, well, shouldn't the user be able to choose which browser? And apparently they are planning to do that, but the way it'll work is, you click the link, it opens up in Facebook's browser, then you'll have like 3 little dots to click, and you can say open in the browser of my own choice. So there's, it's not exactly if you want to do something else, if you prefer a different mobile browser, it's not going to be a seamless experience. Unfortunately, this is what app developers can do. And well, Facebook is, I just gonna Facebook. Any thoughts on this, Jamie or Joe?
Yeah, I would say that, do you want Facebook spying on you or Google? Right? Because if by default you're going with Android, you're going to have Google's Chrome browser. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can probably install, say, Brave or some other tool.
DuckDuckGo.
Facebook, Firefox. Is there a DuckDuckGo browser?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, search engine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There is a browser, DuckDuckGo, and it is phenomenal.
All right.
I shall
Well,
add that to my list.
list of stuff to check out. So yeah, I mean,
Yes.
there is a little bit of the, the Hobson's choice, damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're in the Android ecosystem. But that's I like the way Jamie has always put it, that mobile phones are or surveillance devices that make phone calls. All right,
I
so
mean,
oh, go ahead, Joe.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, Facebook is kind of like an octopus flailing in lava. Do you really want to use their browser?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at their stocks. They're tanking harder than the Titanic.
Mm.
So hopefully I didn't offend any Titanic survivors.
But they'll bring us the metaverse, so we could look at 3D renderings of Zuckerberg? Really?
It looks like bad Minecraft graphics.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that there are some people who are really into fashion design that are kind of psyched about this whole 3D, the ability to design clothes in 3D. But I have enough trouble with reality. Is hard enough as it is. All right, moving right along. So Joe, there was
speaking of other things that are happening, I've been following a lot of the court rulings, especially when it comes to all like the 2A stuff and the gun rights and everything, because that directly affects me, because I am one of the people in Massachusetts that I'm a proud gun owner, and so, but I have jumped through all of the hoops because I never minded going through the whole vetting, because honestly it's completely fine. Now recently, the Supreme Court just vacated a ruling, which I believe was Morin versus whoever it was, the Attorney General at the time, the name escapes me, but we'll link that article down. They basically vacated the ruling, and what it has to do with is people who are convicted of non-violent crimes, such as like possession of marijuana. You know, people convicted of non-violent crimes having their gun rights stripped away. And in light of Bruin versus New York and that Supreme Court ruling, the Supreme Court in Massachusetts basically said, you need to relook at this one. And even though back then when it originally ruled saying, hey, this was fine, they're now saying, basically, when a court says, hey, you got this wrong, they vacate the ruling and kick it back down to the lower court for them to go fix it. Everything in court is done with the utmost professionalism. So they're not saying, hey, you got this wrong, or hey, no. But at the same time, hey, no. So I'm very interested to see by next year, what hoops, if any, we'll have to jump through in Massachusetts. Now, as somebody who's gone through all the process of doing that, it really wasn't as bad as you would think it is. Because really all they're looking for is that you are competent, that you're not looking to cause harm, and that you have people that says, hey, this guy's not a crackpot. Hopefully I didn't offend any of the crackpots out there. But that being said, one of the things that distinguishes Massachusetts is we have the lowest mass shootings in all of the nation. This is a hardcore fact. And we have some of the strictest gun laws. I think it was us, Massachusetts and California, with the strictest gun laws. And so that being said, it's a very fascinating case. It's very fascinating how everything is being ruled on. And their arguments are really something that I agree with, because the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. And for people who have never been convicted of anything violent, again, referencing people who smoke marijuana, because every single pothead I've ever known in my entire life, the worst crime that they would ever, most violent thing they would do is raid the fridge. So they're not exactly going to go out and do anything that's necessarily harmful. Generally there's other things involved when that, and even then, when it comes to drugs and things of that nature, addiction's a terrible thing, and most of the time these people need help. But I digress a little bit. Essentially, going back into this, it's going to be really, really interesting which way the courts try and handle this, because on one hand, we're very, very left-leaning, and we don't generally want to just roll back all the progress we made in keeping our communities and our schools safe. And at the same time, with all the pushing on the gun rights, because, I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the assault weapons ban. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with machine guns. I'm interested to see, what's going to happen with all the other stuff. I know that I'm allowed to own a cannon. I can go out and buy a cannon. In fact, Jamie, Merry Christmas. We're getting you a cannon.
I'd really rather a trebuchet.
We could. That's for your birthday.
Okay.
Well,
Although my wife wouldn't let me buy an OT-64 armored personnel carrier from Czechoslovakia, so oh well.
How about a single manned helicopter? We can go with that.
Oh no.
Well,
I wouldn't trust myself.
I know someone who has one, and he rather enjoys it. He says it is, he was an experienced pilot who, had to downsize his plane in retirement. But he said, yeah, the gyrocopter is kind of cool. Yeah,
I think the smallest one is called the Mosquito.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, back to the gun legislation. I mean, because firearms are something that you can, if you handle them improperly, you can really hurt yourself or someone else. So I mean, I do like the idea of having a competency component to it, but I guess it remains to. I'm not familiar with the the particulars in this case, and I'm hoping that's something that can be retained to some level. Back when
Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, back in my growing up, my dad was the president of the local NRA chapter, and shooting ranges were like family events. It's where the family went on a weekend. But there were like I mean, safety was relentlessly drilled into us as kids, in that environment. And if you did something stupid, even casually pointing a muzzle in the wrong direction, even if the chamber is open, the bolts was open, I mean, you'd get dumped on to no extent of that. But I mean, that's good. It builds safe. It builds up the the ideas of safety as a habit. I guess we're gonna see where this comes down. But Joe, you were saying.
Well, I'd have to say that I'm a big part of the conservation part of the community, as far as like mass wildlife, and actually one of the best schools that I've had the pleasure of going to is the Mass Firearm School, and that school is actually taught by the same people who teach SWAT for the state. So they have all sorts of different courses. There's a lot of competency. And honestly, of all the different hunting clubs, like you said, it's all about safe practices. And most of my training goes through Mass Wildlife, which they make sure that you're competent on every weapon in case you're out in the woods and you find somebody who's distressed, so that you can deal with it. Whether it's black powder, it's archery, it's whatever weapon they have. The level of training that goes into, at least in the Massachusetts chapter, is just phenomenal. And really, the community, everybody It's a community, and it's the only one of the few parts of the government that is actually in the black instead of the red. So that says something right there. But again, it's one of those things where in Massachusetts you get trained, and you get trained typically for free, and if you want the training, it's there. All you're doing is making the time, and there's no reason not to get the training. They're more than happy to teach you and make sure you're safe and make sure you're keeping other people safe and making sure you're competent and able to do it. So, taking the training course at any number of the schools with your basics and even more levels is just something that is easy to attend, easy to do, and it's not really that much of a hurdle. Literally anyone can do it. And, just having that competency and then getting a few people to say, hey, you're not, and then being able to write to say that, hey, I want my Second Amendment right, and I don't really plan on doing anything bad with it. I just want to execute my right. I've never seen them say no. Especially not to a citizen who is doing good for the community. That being said, it's really just, it's not like, say, doing something terrible like human trafficking. All you're doing is exercising your rights. And
So-
as a pirate, we really
human
support
traffic?
you.
So yeah,
No,
speaking of human trafficking, I guess that's a good lead into our third story of the evening, where we're going to talk about one and perhaps even two human traffickers. Joe, what have you got for us?
well, there was that story of recently in Massachusetts, we just busted a major human trafficker out of Brazil who's coming up through Mexico. And so he was doing it for $20,000 per person. The people were paying him $20,000 to traffic them to America. And a couple days ago, I think it was like the 4th, they brought charges against this guy. So if you're doing trafficking for profit, we're going to persecute you. Which, as a pirate, we're against human trafficking, whether it's for sex work or for anything. I mean, we support your right if you want to get paid for sex work. I mean, you go, girl or guy or what have you. But
Workers of the world
the
unite.
human. Well, red umbrella, yay, you go. But
So wait,
but
did you say? Just let me rewind a second. You said that the individuals that this person was transporting paid him $20,000 each to be
per
transported.
head to get into America.
Or it was a
with
debt that they had to pay off by working in his restaurants.
Or that, or what have you.
Which is, not
big-
only is he asking $20,000 to get someone in here, but he's also exploiting them to make a profit. So
he's loan shark.
Which-
It's a form of loan sharking, essentially.
yes,
Yeah, and then he's charging you to live there, and eventually it's a whole thing. It's just, yay, slavery.
basically
Literal, actual
indentured
slavery.
servitude at best.
Indentured
and
servitude,
slavery
which
more
is-
likely.
It's whether they by hook or by crook, it's still a terrible thing that we really stand against. Which brings us to another human trafficker, which apparently for political reasons we don't throw you in jail. Which would be the Florida. Also sent to Massachusetts. In fact, another truckload's coming.
And of course, I think I
I
have
think
this,
that's you, Jamie.
I have the suspicion you're talking about Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
Yeah, so for political reasons, if you're a governor, you can just do human trafficking for free. So what?
Well, not only can you do it for free, you can your taxpayers are going or will end up footing the bill for it, apparently.
Apparently, even if the people who you're trafficking aren't even in your state.
Yeah, that's I mean, I think it was Stephen Colbert did a sketch where, he was saying if you live in Florida and you want to come to Massachusetts, just tell, tell your governor that you're from Venezuela, and Bob's your uncle. But yeah, I mean, that was a
You just don't know
really
where they're going to drop you off.
I mean, that was a pretty pathetic stunt. I have to say. But I guess at least this time, they're doing us a service of letting us know in advance, so we can have some of the human, so we can line up the ducks to have some of their needs met. But yeah.
I mean, it's still human trafficking
Mhm.
by definition. You're trafficking people
Mhm.
for a purpose, whether it's political, it's for profit, for self gain, which I think it's kind of like all three of those actually. And yet, so if you're not politically connected, you don't know the right people, you're not in the right position. Apparently, it's not okay. But if you are politically connected, you know the right people, it is okay. This seems like some Jeffrey Epstein level, like BS.
Yeah, well, that's I guess this is it's not a news story. If you have enough money, if you have enough money or you have enough power, you can kind of, in some ways, and on some level, you can get away with doing almost whatever the hell you want. um, so
Or
much
you
Which
for
change the
really,
laws so that it's legal.
Oh yeah.
Like buying and gutting a corporation, saddling it with massive quantities of debt, and raiding the workers' pension fund while selling the property off and then forcing into bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Profit.
All right. So, is there
well,
any?
I think that just really states why the work we have cut out for us as pirates, what we have to do, where we have to go, and I don't see the Republicans fixing this. I don't see the Democrats fixing this. So it falls onto the people, us, the people, to go and start dealing with this. Now, the one caveat that's nice about actually knowing that they're coming is, again, like you said, we're going to get services ready for them, and we happily accept them. It's more just knowing that they're trying to do this as a stunt, and these are people's lives. So.
Yeah. All right, and with that, I think that brings this evening's episode to a close. As always, we are delighted delighted to do this for you each week, and hope you enjoy it. Feel free to leave us a comment, ask us a question, or check out some of the links that we put in the description. So, Jamie and Joe, I think we can. I believe it's time to say goodnight. So, good night.
Appreciate you.
Au revoir. Arrivederci too.